Welcome back to the NetherKast. We got episode 6 this week. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone in America. How about you, Shadaloo? Did you celebrate Thanksgiving already?
Yes, that came for us quite some time ago, and I've already had my turkey high, coma, and fill. I'm quite good. Right now, I'm just enjoying some peach schnapps. I'm okay. I celebrate American Thanksgiving with alcohol. Like I would celebrate every Tuesday.
Right.
I also celebrate American Thanksgiving with alcohol.
All right. Good. It's good traditions, good traditions. It's important to keep up traditions, of course. Obviously, I'm BlackCyborg, and I have with me each week RazorsEdge, TemperaryUserName, and Shadaloo, our Canadian of the podcast. And I just want to take a second real quick and, you know, if you like the show, subscribe on our YouTube channel. We actually have 72 subscribers now, you know, going into episode 6. I'm pretty happy with it. That's pretty freaking cool, guys. Thank you very much. And the feedback has been great on MKO and YouTube. So thank you very much for, you know, participating with the show. And if you ever want to be on, just message one of us and we'd love to have you on. So yeah, that's very cool, guys. And of course, subscribe to the MKO YouTube channel as well. That's not his name. It's that's the guy on the podcast. I'm dumb. Okay. It's Mick puts up the stuff on YouTube as soon as he can, and he also puts up a lot of other videos from the Mortal Kombat games, so definitely subscribe to them as well. And episode 6 we'll be talking about the MKX arenas. We're gonna go back to the MKX focus here and discuss the arenas in depth and give our opinions on them. So starting things off, we'll talk about the Kove. I understand, Razor, you're not a big fan of the arenas thus far that have been shown off for MKX, so why don't you kind of give us your opinions on the Kove?
All right. Yeah, I don't think I've said it on any previous episode so far, but I don't really like the arenas we've seen so far. I mean, they seem kind of bland to me, and we can get into specifics as we cover them. But as far as the Kove goes, I think of the 4, that's actually the one I do like the most. There is actually sort of a lot going on there with the big sort of Asian-looking galleon or whatever kind of ship that is in the background, and there's that big rock face that looks like a skull, and the bodies that wash up on the bridge that you can throw at the opponent. I mentioned before they look green, like they might be saurians, so that could be something interesting. So I actually think the Kove looks pretty decent so far. My only really complaint with it would be that it seems kind of desaturated, I guess. Like it could use a little more color. So I mean that about covers it for me and the Kove, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really digging the Kove, actually, just because I really like the aesthetic of the water washing right up to the playing field that you're standing on, the dock, or whatever you want to call it. I like the fact that you're in between two ships, kind of. I don't know if on the right that's a ship. I couldn't really tell in the gameplay. It looked kind of like it, but on the left there's definitely a ship that the dock leads right up onto. And I like the bodies washing up. I like that big, you know, kind of skull. Like I almost look at it as almost like a Shao Kahn helmet, obviously being a skull. But I wonder if that has any connection to him. I mean, there's been nothing that's pointing to that other than just pure speculation on my part. But I just really am liking the dark, dreary, gloomy environment this is set in. I just think it really captures the MK dark, gloomy thematic visual that MK. When I think MK, that's exactly what I think of. What do you think about this, Temp?
I'm not a huge fan of it, and when people usually hear something like that, they respond with, "Well, what's wrong with it?" And there's nothing really wrong with it. I just don't think it has enough oomph to it. You know, if I look at this stage and I look at the Wasteland from Mortal Kombat 9, the Wasteland looked a lot better to me, and I think the saturation may have something to do with that. But there's something kind of... I feel like there's not enough going on in the background. Everything looks good. The lighting even looks good. I like the way the characters look in the stage. But there's something... I guess the water effects look really good, and that's going to come to life when I have the game. But there's not enough power behind it, I guess. It's not bad, though. There's nothing really... if I had to put my finger on one thing I didn't like about it, I'd be at a loss, but I'm just not really blown away by the stage. But it is good. I mean, there's other stages we'll get to later where there is something that does actively bother me. But I'm waiting for that one thing that's going to make me love the stage, and I'm not really seeing anything. But overall, it looks good. I mean, the lighting, I think, would be my greatest praise of it. I like how it kind of looks like dusk during a storm, I guess. But...
yeah, the light's kind of breaking through the clouds. It looks really, I don't know, it looks really impressive, I think. I feel like the detail really is there. I mean, there might not be a whole lot going on in the background, but I think the water, the cliffs or the rocks, the jagged rocks, and the light poking through the clouds like that, I think that's, I don't know, I really like the aesthetic of that. I just think it gives it a really, like you said, dark and gloomy feel to it. I don't know, it's just kind of ominous and creepy. And you have the skulls hanging from the little pillars on the dock, and they kind of move and jiggle around or whatever as the water hits up against the dock. I don't know, I'm really digging it. But yeah,
a lot of it is subconscious, I think. Like, when I look at the stage, I mean, I'm kind of scraping corners. I don't really know why I don't care for it that much. I mean, it's hard for me to find one thing, but it's more of like my initial reaction, you know? When I saw some stages in MK9, I was like, wow, that looks really good. And I'm not reacting the same way, and I'm not really sure why, to be honest with you. I wish I had a better answer. But right now, it just looks good. I wish I could say more about it, though. I wish I could say it looked great, you know?
I kind of think I, feel the same way about it. Like, I just sort of am having a gut reaction that if I look at it and don't focus on any of the details, all I'm really seeing is, like, a lot of brown, and the water looks gray, and the clouds are gray, so there's just... Like, I do like the sun breaking through the clouds. I think the sky looks really cool, but if you don't focus in and you just see sort of a blur of color, it's all brown and gray, and it's sort of boring.
Yeah.
I think, personally, it's probably my second favorite of all the stages that we've seen so far. It's got a very bleak aesthetic to it, which is something that I find that most of the stages in MK10 have had so far. I think as time goes on, we're going to find that MK10 is going to be a very, very bleak game. It's not going to be as colorful as MK9 was. I like most of what I'm seeing here. The skull on that's kind of like carved to that cliff face in the background. I also made that association with Shao Kahn. I think we're all kind of like thinking of the MK1 movie or the MK1 and 2 movies. Lord help us. When we think about that, like it's kind of a very Shao Kahn megalomaniac thing to do, kind of carve your entire face into a cliff. I can see that. The one thing that really kind of bothers me about, I guess, the skulls. The skulls on the little pier nubs, I guess, they kind of stick out like a sore thumb. It's like, I look for utility in backgrounds, and I just think, why are those skulls there? Are they better anchors for ships? I don't know.
Yeah, it just seems like a voodoo priest came down the dock and decorated for no good reason.
But overall, like, the jagged cliffs, the grayness of the water, the saturation, I'm okay with it. It's a decent MK background for me, even if there's not a lot going on there. Sometimes less, I think, is more, and I'll make it a point to discuss more of that when we get to the forest. But no, for now, I'm okay with this one. I like it okay.
Can you grab the bodies that pop up every once in a while? Is that a thing? I feel like I've seen that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I believe another interactable part of it is you can jump off the ship on the left, kind of like use it as a launching pad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is there any other stage interactive elements that you guys have seen in gameplay that you can remember?
I think there's like barrels that you can roll or throw at your opponent.
Is that on the side on the left, or is it also
I think it's like
that
towards the
pops
left
up?
side.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like I remember seeing that as well. But yeah, any other thoughts on this map? Like I said, I really like it, and seems like you guys are a little bit more so-so on it thus far. Yeah. Any other thoughts to add to that?
I just want to like it more than I do, and I don't know. I have no idea. I wish I liked it more. I have no criticisms, but it's just good. It's not great, and I don't know why. That's all I got.
I think it's a good candidate for a stage fatality. There can be something lurking down in those waters.
Yeah, it'd be
if
interesting.
there were like a Cthulhu monster popped out of there, my opinion would completely change.
Indeed.
I could easily see like a shark or something pop up onto the dock and just eat you or something like that, and then just kind of slide off. That'd be kind of cool. But yeah, that it'd be interesting to see what kind of weird creature that could pop up from there. I'd definitely like to see that. All right, well, let's move on to the next arena, the Snow Forest, which we saw in the initial trailer for MKX with Sub-Zero and Scorpion. What are your guys' thoughts on the Snow Forest? Shadaloo, why don't you start us off this time?
This is, I think, and it's probably going to come across as a little bit heretical, I think that this is actually my favorite stage out of all of them so far. Like I was mentioning before, I feel like less is more sometimes, and I think that a lot of the time, MK's backgrounds have been a bit overdone, you know? Either a bit too much going on, or it's like, why am I even fighting here? I'm distracted by too much shit in the background. And this I like. It's kind of got this simple, calm aesthetic about it. Like, you know, something you might see in an old samurai or a ninja movie. Like, this feels to me like a natural place where people would fight without wanting to be distracted by a lot of stuff. Overall, I really like how calm, how serene it kind of feels. Very still. Still is the word for it. Like the mounting fog effect in the background. I'm a huge fan of this one. Like I think about, remember back to Street Fighter Alpha 2, you know, and it took it took that stage for Sagat and Ryu. It was this like empty grass plain next to a highway off in Australia. And you had absolutely nothing going on in there but the wind and lightning in the background. And that was all you needed. It was just a perfect place to have a fight. And this makes me think about that in some respects. That's why I like it.
All right, yeah, I'm kind of with you on this one. This is my favorite thus far, just for the fact that, one, I'm a sucker for snow environments like that. I just think they're absolutely beautiful in games. You know, going from shooter games to side-scrollers, etc. I just really like snowy environments. I think they kind of have that, you know, beautiful calmness, like you said. And I think the dark, ominous forest with, you know, clearly dead trees and the fog rolling through from the background and the light kind of shining through that fog coming from the background, giving all the trees a silhouette look. It just really works really well with the snow and everything. I just really liked it. Ever since I saw it in the trailer, I said, I hope that is a stage in the game. And sure enough, it is, of course. And I just really liked it. It also makes me think back to MK Legacy when Sub-Zero and Scorpion fought in the snowy, wooded area. And I had the same feeling there. I just thought that worked really well. It's a great aesthetic. It's just when I think of great cinematography, I thought that was really good in Legacy. And I'm so glad they brought something similar to it and maybe even inspired from it in this game. And yeah, I'm really digging it. And I'm also liking the interactive elements of the tree branches to be able to flip off of and grab and smash on your opponent, etc. I'm really digging everything about this. And yeah, it's just right up my alley in terms of something, the aesthetics that I really like in a stage like this. Temp, what are your thoughts?
I don't feel like it has a lot of identity to it. You know, I look at the forest, I'm like, where are we? I mean, it looks pretty. It looks like a Thomas Kincaid painting, and that's not a bad thing. But I'm like, and then that's cool. I mean, it is a very beautiful stage, but I'm like, are we at the Lin Kuei headquarters? Is this Outworld? Is this Earth? You know, we have a great forest in the MK history, and this is not it. And that's okay. It's fine. I'm not against the idea of new forests. I know it's a very strange camp, I guess, but I don't know. I don't see a lot of personality in it right now, and I guess the interactions are kind of cool. I'm into having more night stages. I think the snow and the nightfall looks really good, but I can't connect to it. I feel like there's a lot of the same problems with a Kove. I'm like, okay, you have this cool background. Where's all the personality? And I know this sounds overly negative, but I'm trying so hard to find something I like about these stages, and it looks good overall. And I think we did need a snow stage that wasn't just a bland Lin Kuei headquarters, kind of like what we had in Deadly Alliance. You know, I think that's what we had in Deadly Alliance. And so far, it's just, where does this fit into everything? I wish there was something going on in the background. Let's say it is a Lin Kuei forest or the Lin Kuei headquarters. I think it'd be cool if they're like warriors kind of peeking behind the trees or hidden in the background or like sitting on branches, when the camera moves up, that would be cool. Now the stage is alive. Now there's something going on, but it just kind of looks random to me right now. It doesn't look bad, but I'm waiting for something to bring it to life for me.
I mean, it does have that arch, I guess, that broken up arch in the background, which, I mean, I'm not saying that's going to, be anything special or anything, but it might have some sort of story to it. And I'm sure this environment, like a lot of the ones in MK9, will be in story mode and it'll show what, part this is, where this takes place and why. But I mean, in my opinion, I don't feel like I totally get where you're coming from in that you want the arenas or the stages to have specific, backgrounds to them, and you want something special about them that makes them stick out from the rest. That's like, okay, this is definitely an Outworld, and this just oozes Outworld right now. But I mean, in my opinion, at this stage in the game, with so many stages as a part of this franchise, I don't feel like every stage needs to just scream something. I mean, something as beautiful as this can just be just that. It's a dark, ominous, it's got fog, it's at night, it's snowy forest. I mean, why wouldn't it make for a really cool fight location? I mean, think of an action or a kung fu movie. Something like this is right up in that ball field or ballpark or whatever. It's perfectly fitting of the style of game that MK is all about. So I don't know. I feel like not everything needs a portal in the background to be special, whereas something like this kind of speaks for itself, because, think 5 games from now, you'll think back and like, hey, you remember that snow forest level? I mean, it kind of sticks out in its own right. It's not like your run-of-the-mill, just grassy environment, just like, I don't know. I feel like it does have unique qualities to it that make it somewhat special without being overly done.
Yeah,
actually, speaking of portals, it's actually funny that you should say that, because I do recall that there was some speculation on the forums about that arch you see in the background and whether or not there was actually a light coming from it or emanating from it briefly. So yeah, people were speculating that arch could be a portal.
That would be interesting. I mean, that would definitely add some positive elements to it. I'm not against having a stage that is just a normal arena, that is just kind of sterile by nature, but not in a bad way. In that case, I would have made it more Kincaid. I would have made it more like majestic and more beautiful, and maybe even make it during the daytime. Even there may be a daytime equivalent of the stage, possibly. But I don't know. And I guess a lot of these opinions kind of interrelate. Every stage kind of affects the way I think of the other. So maybe it's because we don't have that grand portal stage. Maybe that because that hunger is still kind of lingering. Maybe that's making me more critical. But if they were going for the simplistic, for the majestic, maybe take it further. I don't know.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from there. Right now we kind of have 4, kind of normal environment type stages without anything extravagant to them that's like overly, fantasy-like or et cetera, and along that line. So I could see where you're saying there that once you get your portal theme level, that maybe you'll appreciate something like this a little bit more. Razor, where do you weigh in on this one?
A little bit conflicted. My gut reaction is of the 4, this one is actually the one I actively dislike the most, and it's mostly for the reasons Temp has already covered. I think it looks too bland. I mean, there's actually nothing in the background but trees, except for that little archway, and if there is a light back there, I think it probably, like, there's a trail that passes under the arch. I think it like leads to a building back there. I think it might be like, I'm inclined to guess Lin Kuei Temple just because there's snow and you automatically associate that with Sub-Zero, but being the the little details pop culture guy that I am, I'm also sort of reminded of the outside entrance of the Red Dragon hideout when you go there in Armageddon Conquest. There's like a little fight in this wood clearing, and then you go inside the mountain. So I don't know, maybe it could be associated with the Red Dragons rather than the Lin Kuei, but it's just, there's nothing else in there. It's just an ordinary forest, and I don't feel like that's... I don't... Like, there's... In my head, the logic goes that the reason nobody ever remembers or cares about the arenas from, say, Deadly Alliance and Deception is because they were so boring, and the MK1 through 3 ones are so iconic, and that's why the nostalgia is so strong, because the new stuff in this instance can't compare. It's like, I feel like, I don't know if they're not trying hard enough or their ideas aren't creative enough or what it is, but I just feel like I want to see them make arenas that can stand the test of time, held up next to the, the Wasteland and the Portal and the Combat Tomb and, the Soul Chamber and all that stuff.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. One of my things of why the 3D arenas didn't kind of stand up next to the 2D arenas is just that. I mean, when you have a 3D arena, you have so much space that is just absolutely completely empty, and that's the area that you fight in. I mean, you'll get some random pillar here and there to knock your opponent through, but I just thought that was really bland, and it kind of, I don't know, I didn't like a lot of the 3D arenas for that. I mean, you have something like the Acid Bath, which I thought was, iconic arena, and that, it still sticks out to me in my mind. I can remember the Acid Bath, but at the same time, I really like the background aspect of it, but I just thought they were a lot more bland, whereas you look at MK9 bringing back the 2D environments, that's because they were in 2D, and they absolutely pack them full of details, and I don't know, I guess I'm singing these ones just, as good as the ones in MK9, without the nostalgia factor, of course, but I don't know, I think if you would have had these in 2D sprites back in the day, these would have stood out, they'd still be our favorites, these days is what I'm trying to say, is I feel like I don't see much difference between these and ones previously.
I don't know, I don't think an ordinary woodland area would stick out to me. It doesn't strike me as very Mortal Kombat. Like, I feel like it's more of a Tekken arena or something, because a lot of those are very just, generic environment. But see, that's sort of my gut reaction. Intellectually, my thought is I'm thinking back to MK9 and how one of my biggest problems with story mode was that there were so many moments that happened off screen, specifically because they would have had to build an environment for that scene to take place in. For example, we don't get to see the Lin Kuei headquarters at all ever in the game. We don't get to see anybody be turned into a cyber ninja, because they would have had to make an arena for that, and they just didn't. So I'm willing to forgive like a bland-looking place now if something important happens there in story mode. Like if the reason this arena exists is because there needs to be scenes that take place outside the front door of the Lin Kuei temple or whatever, and this is what that is, then yeah, absolutely. The problem in this instance, I think, is that this is the first arena we saw. This is like the arena we see on the character select screen. Like, the MKX marketing revolves around this bland-ass snowy forest. And I feel like they could do better.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know. I mean, obviously this all comes down to opinion. It is just a matter of aesthetic and desired, or what people, want from their stages. So I don't think either of us are wrong or right, and I certainly don't see it that way. We just have different expectations for, what we think of MK, what we want from MK, and that's completely cool. I don't know.
It's interesting that we're split in half.
Yeah,
that
precisely.
It shows both perspectives.
Indeed, and that's just, I mean, that's kind of on a lot of things. There's so many different expectations. I mean, we get in a whole discussion on this on another episode, where it's so funny how the same series that we've all followed for so long, so many years, a lot of us since childhood, can raise such different expectations and just what you associate with MK. Like, one man, might say, I associate a portal level to MK, and another might say, well, this snow forest I associate with MK. It's just, at the end of the day, there's no right or wrong answer, because MK is just it covers so much ground and covers so many different territories and different aspects and plays up so many different like kung fu aspects and fantasy aspects that it's just, I don't know, it's so diversive in that way. Just really interesting.
On that note, I just would like to say that you know that there has to be someone lurking back there they're going to be able to fight. I mean, it's kind of, I mean, this thing just sort of scream Living Forest Part 2 to me, and I fully do expect to see, you know, if not Smoke Jade or Noob themselves, and someone poking their head out of there, or walking through the trees distantly in the background, you know? Something like the crypt. Is there someone back there? Did I just see a shadow move? I think we're going to get a bit of that. Maybe randomized if you fight in a certain amount of times. There's a huge potential for secret presence in this stage. It feels still, it looks still, and yet, I don't know.
I hope you're right, because that would make it more interesting. I'd really love to see like some mysterious figure lurking back there, like wandering between the trees or something like that. That would be cool. But I don't know. See, this sort of raises a point in my head of like, the thing about stages, it was so much easier, I think, to make them back when the games had more, I think, focused plot ideas. Like, you know, Mortal Kombat 1, every stage needs to look like it's a location on Shang Tsung's island. So you're looking at, like, Enter the Dragon and, you know, movies like that. And, you know, places that look like arenas or look like areas that would be on a tiny Chinese guy's island. You know, you've got the Buddha decorations and all the buildings are, like, pagoda-shaped and stuff like that. It's easy to follow that pattern, or like MK2, it's like, well, the object of this game is to introduce the audience to Outworld, which is this scary alien place. So all you got to do is make sure all the stages look scary and alien. MK3 takes place in a dead, abandoned city. Make sure all the stages just look like a New York that's, you know, post-apocalyptic. Every game after that takes place in multiple locations and realms over longer stretches of time, so they have to, you know, be more diverse, and they can't really focus on a specific, like, theme.
Right.
So that's just sort of, I don't know, it's something that occurred to me that is probably a challenge they now have that made it easier to make stages iconic back in the day, whereas they sort of struggle with that now, I guess.
Yeah, there's no continual theme link between all the levels, story-wise, which, yeah. Any other thoughts on the Snow Forest?
Well, I'll throw this out there. If Cage actually does turn out to be in the game, I'm going to have a hell of a lot of fun time fighting Scorpion, kind of reenacting that first part of the MK1 movie where they fought.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
All right, then. Let's move on.
We're good.
Good. All right, let's move on to the marketplace, the Outworld Marketplace, actually. And any thoughts on the Outworld Marketplace? Temp, why don't you start this one off?
This one is actually my favorite. I really do like the marketplace. It's not perfect. Considering that it is a marketplace, it doesn't seem terribly eventful. It's a lot of wide open space. I feel like they could do more with the backgrounds, because a lot of fighting games do have marketplaces, and they're much more congested, but in a good way. You know, there's a lot going on. It'd be cool if there was a little more action going on in the background, less, you know, dark yellows and browns, and there's a lot of open space going on, and I feel like that holds it back. I would also, you know, I feel like if we're going to do cameos in this game, this would be a great place to do it. You know, just have like Li Mei buying fruit in the background, or Bo Rai Cho buying wine, or something like that. You know, have more dynamics in the background. Like, you have a lot of stuff going on up front with the tiger and with Blanche, and, you know, I guess that makes sense. If there's a fight going on, you know, a crowd might kind of circle around it, but I like the idea, though, and I think overall it looks good. Just a little more. It's almost there, you know?
Do you think this represents Outworld, or do you find it a little bit odd that this is placed in Outworld just because of, you know, how bright and sunny and kind of almost like a desert location type of outpost type look it has to it?
I think that's okay. What bothers me more is that Outworld is supposed to be this culturally different place, you know? It's supposed to be, you know, just black and white. It's supposed to be horrible. And, it looks like it looks like a normal marketplace to me. It looks like, you go back 400 years into some place and, sort of like, I don't know, Middle East, Eastern Europe, you could see something like this maybe. And that's also kind of holding it back for me. I just wish there was more going on that said this is Outworld and you're not going to see this anywhere else, I mean,
maybe
old
whoever
ladies game. Yeah.
maybe whoever takes over Outworld and is the new ruler, cleans up the place.
Yeah, just amazing economy after Kodokan.
Yeah.
Employment goes crazy.
Yeah.
Paddling rates increase by 1,000%.
You know that paddle's coming, you're your best behavior from that point forward.
Yeah, no, you better be fearing the paddle. It's coming.
They're watching you. You must obey. Shadaloo, what are your thoughts on this?
Meh. A throw meh for me. This is probably, all told, my least favorite of the stages. And precisely as Temp said, this doesn't scream Outworld to me, not at all. In point of fact, it completely flies in the face of the way that I envision Outworld all these many years, And look, to be fair, this isn't the first time that Outworld has seemed like less of an apocalyptic wasteland to me, which is the way I've always seen it, I had a really weird time in Deception going, Walled City of Lei Chen. Really. It all just seemed so very, Earth Realm to me, very human. When I think of Outworld, I think of places like the Wastelands, the Living Forest, and really terrible, awful, dystopian plateaus that go on for miles and miles. The entire MK1 movies version of this perpetually storm-clouded sky and people shuffling off in corners, afraid for their lives, and this just looks like a scene out of, I don't know, Disney's Aladdin with a couple more tigers and stuff, and some perhaps just some weird stuff in the background, a little bit of odd architecture, but it just it screams Saudi Arabian desert to me with a couple of touches.
Yeah, very much so.
I'm not a fan of it. It's doing weird things to my perception of Outworld. Maybe I'm an old man and needs to change with the times, but Outworld's getting less scary by the game.
I wouldn't go as far as saying it's not like Outworld at all. I mean, if you look at the kind of the buildings in the background and structures, you still have a lot of like pointy, sharp objects and you have that weird spiky structure in the background that I'm not even sure what the hell the purpose of that is. It just, I don't know, it looks big and creepy and scary. And then you have, in the far background, you have bigger buildings that are more reminiscent of something, like you said, kind of in Saudi Arabia. But I mean, I could see them being part of Outworld. But I mean, you look at everything in the foreground, and yes, I completely agree. This is just something straight out of, a typical outpost you'd find in Saudi Arabia. I mean, that's just, I just don't see much difference between it. And yeah, it does not scream Outworld to me at all in that regard. But I mean, you have this giant, tiger, saber-toothed creature up front, and you have Blanche and stuff like that. And it's got personality, but yeah, it's probably my least favorite of the bunch too, just because I don't know, I'm not a big fan of the sunny, deserty locations in any type of aspect, so this one doesn't strike me as much. It just doesn't have the aesthetic appeal that the other two have had so far. So yeah, thus far it's my least favorite. I mean, I do like the interactable objects. I like Blanche, even though that's kind of wacky and weird, but it's kind of like the pig from Injustice, and jumping off the tiger's head is kind of neat.
The pig is in there.
The pig is in there?
Well, I think it's just like its head roasting and you can throw it at people or something like that, but the pig advantage is coming back.
Oh, nice.
We have our new running gag.
But, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's probably my most leaving a lot to be desired stage that that's been shown thus far. And, yeah, I don't have a whole lot more to say about it other than just it's okay, but yeah, it doesn't strike me as visually stunning, or I'm like, oh my gosh, this is totally next gen, this looks absolutely beautiful. I just don't get that. I get it from the other 3 stages that have been shown thus far. I don't get it so much from this. It just looks okay to me. What's your thoughts on it, Razor?
I like the idea of an Outworld Marketplace, but I definitely agree this doesn't really scream Outworld to me. It does look like I'm reminded sort of like a scene from a Gladiator movie. Like it just reminds me of somewhere in like Greece or Egypt or the Middle East that you'd see like Russell Crowe being dragged through like in chains or something. But like, or you know, like an Agrabah bazaar from Aladdin. Yeah, like I. The only thing that's weird or alien in the entire stage is that tiger, and even then, not that much. Like, it doesn't really look like much of a monster, it's just kind of a slightly weird-looking tiger.
Yeah.
And I just, you know, it wouldn't be that hard to fix, either. If you look at all, or at least most, of the stages in MK2, all that really made them look weird and alien in terms of environment was just the sky was a strange color. You know, like the sky and the dirt was like shades of orange and purple. So just, you know, make it a little purple and maybe throw like an animation in the background of like a band of Tarkatans walking around and bullying people. Suddenly, boom, it's Outworld.
Yeah, precisely. I have a hard time believing that this is taking place in the same world where, from the perspective of the combat tomb, you've got fucking pterodactyls flying around, and go back to Shaolin Monk's interpretation of the wasteland, and it's nothing but rivers of blood for miles and miles.
Yeah, right? Shaolin Monks was... That's my favorite thing about Shaolin Monks, that it really, like, turned those stages into these giant environments so that it felt more like Outworld was a whole world and you were exploring it, and this is what it all looked like. And the environments we see, you know, like this, and there were some that were like this too in Deadly Alliance, that were just blue sky, yellow sand deserts, and those were supposed to be located in Outworld, and that never sat right with me. I just don't like the idea that the orange and purple areas are like a small portion, and that most of the world looks like Earth. Like there are all these areas that Shao Kahn hasn't corrupted, and that's what they look like. I think it should all look, you know, dead and decaying and alien and weird, because that's what makes it an interesting place.
Yeah, definitely. I would love to see those changes made to this stage, and I agree that it's totally savable. Pretty easy fixes. I mean, just visually changing the sky, adding some background elements, and just, you know, basically putting in those Outworld elements that they've shown before would totally... I think they would absolutely completely change the way this stage is perceived, and I think something like that is very, very simple, like you were suggesting, and I would totally love to see that. I think that would take this stage from being something that I'm just kind of meh about and turning into more like we mentioned before, more iconic and more something that stands out. So yeah, I would definitely hope they do something like that. I mean, they have plenty of time before release to make that sort of change, or even just add a couple of elements to the background to make it stand out more in a more outworldy type of fashion. But I don't think they will change it, but I would love it if they did.
Yeah, I don't want to come across as selfish or anything, but I'm looking at like bags of fresh produce and there's a fucking watermelon back there. People are growing watermelons in Outworld. No, I'm sorry. The trees in Outworld grow terrible things. Fleshy pustules.
Maybe they're not normal watermelons. Maybe they're like, you know, fangs and...
blood watermelons.
You know what?
I'm sold.
You know, if there was a stand in that marketplace that was selling pus fruit, I would believe that's a thing that exists in Outworld. I'd be like, yeah, I bet they eat that because they have no choice. That's all that grows there.
Doesn't taste good, but, you know, get all your proteins.
Yeah. Or maybe Gallagher's the new ruler of Outworld. So...
Maybe Gallagher is green and has a paddle. We don't know.
It's true. That's the plot twist of MKX.
Kodo could be Gallagher. I mean,
You didn't laugh at his stand-up routine? That's a paddling.
Yep. Traded in the sledgehammer for the paddle.
It's very possible the real Gallagher said something like that, probably back in the 80s and 90s, but who knows, so.
But yeah, is there any stage fatality that you could see out of this? I mean, obviously the tiger or whatever that is the obvious choice here, but I feel like everything we're talking about thus far is like some sort of animal-related stage fatality, other than maybe the snow forest, but, a shark on the Kove, and then we'll get to the jungle, the alligator in the jungle, but it'd almost be a little bit redundant and overdone if they just tried to make this dangerous animal a stage fatality in every single stage.
Didn't they actually say something about that weird rotating spike wheel in the background?
Yeah, I mean, I could totally see something coming out of that, but that's so far in the background. How would that even work?
I feel like the tiger's a little too far back to be a stage fatality too. Like if I were to look at the elements that are right up close to the lane you fight in, the thing that I would find most likely to be like lethal is like a pot of coals, like that's cooking the pig head or something like that. Like you shove your opponent's face in the coals. I don't know.
That would be good. I'd like that. Though, no, yeah, that would totally work. Then again, in MK, like every that's like a normal special move is to light your opponent on fire. So
yeah,
I don't know how that's going to be any more extreme.
Just sort of ripping off the Nether Realm one where you burn their face off in the lava.
Yeah, definitely. Any other thoughts on this stage? Okay, I'll take that silence as a no. All right, we have one more stage to discuss that's been revealed in MKX thus far, and that would be the jungle, as first shown in the Kano reveal trailer. Razor, what are your thoughts on the jungle thus far?
It's very jungly. I think it's all right. It's a little bit
too jungly for you.
What you'd expect. It might be too jungly. I think there's a lot of Aztecish stuff going on in there, like I think there's a totem pole sort of object, like a big stone column or something like that. There's some other decorations, and like you can see like a ziggurat and stuff like that in the background. It's very similar to Maya's stage from the new Killer Instinct.
Yeah.
If I were to guess, I'd say it's probably Kotal Khan related.
Yeah, like it seems that way, just
absolutely.
From the aesthetics and whatnot and the decorations.
I don't have a problem with it, but it seems predictable in terms of how it's decorated, and it's like, I don't know, it doesn't really stand out to me compared to like other jungles in other video games, I guess. I don't know what you do different with it. Nothing comes to mind. Like it's a good Aztec jungle area for what it is. I'm not that interested in it, I guess.
All right, Shadaloo, your thoughts?
I feel like Third Strike kind of capped off the market about for Aztec looking backgrounds with a Urian stage back in Third Strike. It's not a bad background. I like it, and I'm gonna give the team props for the ambient effects that you get as the characters walk through the water, ripples, light splashes as they move around. It's really very pretty. It's definitely the prettiest stage. Is MK pretty? Well, that's neither here nor there. But no, I think it's one of those stages that I come around to. I think when I see things happening there. As I assume that major things are going to happen, they're probably revolving around Kotal Khan. Some people speculate that it's got something maybe to do with Farah, that some of the hieroglyphs or whatever on the back, and they kind of match what's on her helmet crest. We'll see. I don't dislike it, but it doesn't jump out at me. It's very pretty. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm go ahead.
No, I'm not. That's it, basically. I'm not super impressed by it as a place to fight in the way I am with the forest, but technically it's a very, very beautiful stage, and I have to definitely give the team props for this. I like looking at it.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a very pretty stage, very visually appealing stage. It's got a lot of really good elements to it and just great visuals. It definitely looks next gen, unlike my opinion on the Outworld Marketplace. This one definitely brings out the details and the just pushing, the series to new limits in terms of visual aesthetics. And I love the water running through. I think if the blood even goes in the water and kind of runs down, if I'm correct, that's a really cool aspect. I like all the vines, and it's just lush, filled with all sorts of, vegetation and everything. It just looks really, really packed, filled with detail, and I love that about it. There's the alligator in the background that's kind of up the creek. Some people have even said they saw a snake. I'm not sure about that, but yeah, the alligator could play into a specific stage fatality, but just like the little details like that. And of course, like Razor mentioned, there is the rune I think it's on the left part of the stage, and it kind of could be related to Kotal Khan, like was stated. And I'm just interested to see what this stage has to do with the story and which character it might be potentially related to, and just the overall what this location plays into, like I said, story mode. And I don't know, it's just, I agree though that it doesn't, with Razor, that it doesn't stick out as much, in that it just seems kind of plain and bland. I mean, it's packed filled with details, don't get me wrong, but I don't know, the general consensus seems to be that it's a really great looking stage, but kind of like Razor's opinion on the forest and whatnot, I kind of see that with this one. It doesn't really stick out as anything special thus far. I mean, if it has a great story behind it or aspect that we're not seeing, then that's great. But right now it just looks like a tremendous visual-wise stage, but I just don't get a whole big MK vibe from it. Whereas the Snow Forest I could excuse because it's dark and ominous and has a bunch of fog, and it's, in, a forest area like that. But, this bright jungle, that's not something I think of MK at all. Bright and sunny and stuff is something I just never really envisioned, other than, outside of like Chinese palaces and stuff like that. But that pretty much wraps up my personal thoughts on it. Temp, where do you stand on this one?
This is a hard stage to talk about, because you're right, there's a lot of detail. And I mean, with the vines and the leaves, and I'm just picturing one of the developers. I mean, his Thursday afternoon was probably just working on those vines. That's all he did. And it hurts me to say it, but I can't stand this stage. I don't like it. It just, oh my God, it's so bland looking. And you look at the runes, and like, I'm thinking runes should be cool.
What the hell is this?
And my mic, yeah.
Did Temp just get turned into a cyber ninja on the air?
They got me, guys. Grandmaster just walked in. Done. Got me Sub-Zero.
Holy shit.
More stealthful in the night. More deadly than the dawn.
I heard that whispered and then just, robot legs. Didn't see it coming. But yeah, just to keep rolling with that. Yeah, it just, oh God, runes should look cool, and these runes look boring. This creek, which I guess might be a river, maybe it is just a creek, but you don't even notice it. Like, I don't even see it unless the characters are fighting. Like, if it's not in game, I don't even notice it's there, because it colors so well into the background. It just, until you see the little splashes, I'm like, oh, there is water. And the leaves just, it's too much. It's so much jungle, and it's all in your face, and there's not nearly enough diversity. It's just boring looking to me. And it hurts me to say, because I look at this stage, and I'm like, a lot of people worked really, really hard on this stage. And and there's probably some dudes who are looking at this stage at NetherRealm Studios and are like, yeah, they're going to love this. They're going to be all over this. They're going to be like, wow, NetherRealm Studios has really done it this time. And I can't fucking stand it. I'm sorry. I wish I did. I don't want to dislike anything. I hate talking bad. Anytime I look at art or I look at something that people slaved over, I don't want to be all up in arms about it, but I like what I like.
I just love your...
so boring.
I just love how you are just peeking into their lives, like they sit around at the computer and they're like, "Oh man, NetherRealm really did it this time."
They're all high-fiving like, yeah, guys, jungle, fuck yeah. But
we're
no,
going out for
not like
pizza
that,
tonight. We did good.
Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're like, God, they're gonna hate this stage. This stage is bullshit. This is the worst creek ever. We fucked up creeks for life, you know? I don't know. Maybe that's what's going on.
We'll never look at another creek again without thinking of how stupid ours is.
Guy just drives over a bridge on a small creek on the way home. God damn it, I hate my fucking life. Look at that.
But yes, I think what's important to point out, and I think we all just pointed out really well, but just to reiterate that fact that, yes, it just doesn't scream MK, but damn it, this is just beautiful. I mean, anytime I look at this stage, either in-game or just pictures, I especially love the fact that, you know, whether that's a river or a creek or whatever the hell that is, I love the little break in the trees and all the you know, lush vegetations. I love the break there, and you can see into the background. You kind of got like you have another structure back there, be it a bridge or whatever that is. You have that kind of way in the background, and the water's running through it, and you kind of see maybe a side of a mountain back there, and you see the sunlight coming through. It definitely looks just absolutely tremendous. Probably one of the best looking stages they've ever made, but that doesn't mean it makes the best MK stage. So I don't think they should be criticized for the stage. I mean, I don't think any of us will be, you know, mind playing on it, because it just looks... This looks like something that will really show off the, you know, Xbox One, PS4 engine really, really well. Like I said, it's almost like a tech demo of just how great the visuals look in this game. I think when my friend saw the trailer for Kano, and he's not huge in MK, but his one comment was, "Holy crap, the stages look amazing." And that's definitely what I think of when I see this stage. I don't think of, you know, bleeding MK or anything, because when I think MK, like I said, I think darker and ominous, if anything, and creepy. I don't think bright, you know, vegetation like this, but damn it, it just looks really, really good. It's packed, filled with detail. And yeah, I feel like whoever made the stage deserves all the props in the world, but I mean, maybe, for all we know, maybe there's a night version of the stage that brings out a more creepy vibe to it. Who knows?
I really hope so.
There could be, like, if there were a night stage, there's a lot more they could do with it. Like, they could have eyes back in the trees and stuff, sort of like the yellow eyes in Goro's lair. That would be something you can do.
That'd be
torches.
Yeah.
What if the ruins, like, what if that giant head in the background, that's actually like a torch and there's fire in the eyes, you know? And
that's a thought. Night versions of all the stages. That could work wonders for the Outworld Marketplace.
I mean, night version... Yeah, maybe that's when the sky will change and go all, you know, batshit crazy and just everything's on fire. Who the hell knows? But or people are doing, like, you know, crucifixions and sacrifices in the background and just doing all sorts of creepy shit. But who the hell? I mean, marketplace by day, you know, gallows by night, just something creepy like that. Because that big spiky thing has to, you know, it has to be there for something. But as it pertains to this stage, and like you said, if they do night stages again, which I really hope they do, because I really enjoyed that in MK9. I love the night and day versions of the pit and the night and day versions of the palace grounds, or whatever that was called, the garden, Shang Tsung's garden. I liked the variations on those. So yeah, I really hope they do. I think out of all the stages thus far, I think a night version of this, like you said, with eyes coming from back in the vegetation area, and maybe, you know, that statue or rune having some sort of element to it. I think that would be really, really cool. Kind of maybe fog rolling over the water as it goes by. I just think things like that, like those are...
Have that giant head in the background tilt almost imperceptibly to follow the fight.
Yeah, just creepy things like that. I feel like that would take something that's so beautiful and detailed like this, and that version would make it more MK, the MK that I think of when I think of the stages and stuff like that. So I think that would be really, really neat if they do that. I just think that's one of my favorite aspects of MK, and that's why I wanted to talk about Arena so much, is because leading up to MK9, I really liked seeing all the stages as they were revealed. They just, I don't know, I enjoy the stages as much as I enjoy any other aspect of the game, just because visually they just look stunning, and I love all the different variations on weather and times of day that they can do, and just the little aspects like that. So it's just, I think they tell a story, and I really like that. So I would love a night version of this stage.
Well, I do want to say something good about this stage. There is one praise I may have for it, and when we saw it debut, it was Kano versus D'Vorah. Now let's talk about character colors here. We basically have yellow, gray, black, and chest hair. Those are our colors to choose from. So if we maybe I don't know, let's say Ermac versus a more blue Sub-Zero, bluer than he is now, that might look really good. That might contrast really well with the characters. And then the lighting would make sense. Now the green muted background makes sense, and that might look really awesome. But they chose the only characters they had available, and they're the most colorless of the two, so you don't have that contrast,
Yeah, true. That's a good point.
I think Reptile would look really good here, personally.
You don't even see him. It's just
no
Chameleon obviously is already there.
Yes.
Yeah, you do the invisibility special and it actually makes him more visible.
Actually, start of Armageddon, didn't Taven wake up in kind of an Amazonian jungle forest? Where was he situated?
The first location he was sent to retrieve his armor was a temple in a jungle area, and he was attacked by the black dragons and the red dragons.
So you're saying there's a chance.
For those Taven fans out there, you never know.
All right. Any other thoughts on the jungle arena? Or these arenas in general, I should say, as we wrap up this topic?
That's all I got.
I'm just hoping we see something that blows my mind. My mind was blown by so many MK9 stages, and I'm getting a little less optimistic with every reveal, because it sounds like there's a theme between every stage where everything's graphically good, but conceptually not coming to life. Everything looks really soulless to me. So let's bring in a portal. Let's bring in a tower. Let's do something just crazy, and not just saturated and muted looking.
How many stages did MK9 have? They had a lot, didn't they?
Yeah.
It was at least 16 or something, right?
15 to 20 for sure.
So we've seen 4 thus far. I'm positive there'll be something in there that you really enjoy. I think at least half of them will be more of the fantastical elements.
We're going to get so far.
So far, all the environments we've seen have been outdoor stages that are mostly some sort of environment in Outworld that I feel like is supposed to give us a look at some area of the culture or something like that. Here's a dock where ships are at in Outworld, and here's a jungle in Outworld where this character might live, and here's this marketplace where people live in Outworld, and then here's this thing that might be the doorway to Lin Kuei headquarters on Earth. So far, we haven't seen any of the one of the classic things about Mortal Kombat stages is there's these indoor areas that are some place where dark sorcerers worship and do their evil stuff, and we haven't really seen any of that yet. And I think because Quan Chi will probably play such a big role in the game, and maybe Shinnok too, I think once we start seeing stages related to the Nether Realm or the Brotherhood of Shadow, we might get more of that classic MK feel.
Yeah, I think they're definitely coming. I think they chose the stages they chose for this because they do really show off the graphical elements, but I do think there'll be more fantasy elements and the more traditional MK elements, like the MK2, more outworldy type stuff in the upcoming stages, and I look forward to them as well.
I want to say it's also kind of a matter of character association. Ice Cold, Snowy Forest, teamed with Sub-Zero, that's the first time we saw him. This jungle makes you think of Kotal Khan. It's possible. It's possible they're being really, really strategic about it. I don't know. I hope to see something else when Shinnok gets his due.
It might have something to do with the new characters we've seen so far too. It seems like Kotal, D'Vorah, and Ferrator are all Outworlders or have something to do with showing us what happens to the culture and the government once Shao Kahn is gone, and like what the realm becomes and what comes out of the woodwork now that he's not there to oppress them. And
oh God, you're telling me Outworld's turning into a nice place where they grow watermelons all day? Stop.
Yeah. So much for the
shaking.
pus fruit.
No.
Yep. And my closing thoughts on arenas is, like I said, I just hope we see a good variety of environments, themes, weather, and time of days, etc. And of course, fantasy versus realistic, etc. I love the thought of seeing great variations with the stages in all those aspects, and I hope we see certain stages with multiple versions of them, because I really enjoyed that in MK9. So I look forward to see the ones that haven't been revealed yet. All right, well, that'll wrap it up for our stage discussion for this week. We'll jump right into our retrospective character of the week, which is, as chosen by MKO users on MKO, because that makes sense. The MK users on MKO.
Department of Redundancy Department.
Yeah, there you go. Well, straight from the MKO users on MKO, we have Stryker.
In the MKO section.
Yep, in the MKO section. MKO, because it didn't say that enough.
Buffalo, 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 Buffalo.
Right.
Look that up if you don't know what that's about.
Okay.
Sentence structure. It's a coherent sentence. It's amazing.
How now, brown cow? All right. It was Stryker.
Inside jokes.
That's a bad one. All right. Stryker was our chosen character for this week. So, all right. We'll talk about Stryker and all the games he's been in the series and our favorite fatalities. At least he has more than one fatality, unlike Frost. So there are options there. Temp, why don't you start us off on Stryker?
I really like Stryker. I've always liked Stryker, and I know I'm not alone with that. And I think it's kind of trendy to be like, oh, Stryker's awesome now. Stryker was always great. But before that, I mean, there was a lot of backlash towards the character, but even back in the arcade days, a lot of people played Stryker, and I think there's two reasons for that. The first reason was he was pretty good, at least in the early phase of the game. As the game started to evolve and people learned the mechanics, I don't know if he stayed good, but people liked Stryker. People were really effective with him in the arcade, so he did bring in a lot of people, if for no other reason, he was an effective player. Another reason I think people like Stryker is because until Ultimate MK3, I think, the idea of an MK character using a gun, I think people talked about that. Why doesn't Jax use a gun? Why doesn't Sonya use a gun? And we got our gun finally, and Stryker had it. And I think that counts for more than people think, That is a very... Aesthetically, that is a very unique feature, And, he brought a gun to a fist fight, or a fireball fight, I don't know. But it was cool. People liked it. I liked it, And people complained that, well, he was kind of a bland-looking, overweight riot cop, and I would respond to that, have you met cops? Because that's often what they look like. They're usually a little heavier. Typically, just kind of the typical archetypal uniform. I'm okay with it. I don't think it looks bad. I even like the backwards cap. And if you watch the reveal for Stryker, I guess I'll put reveal in quotations, because I think it was like 5 frames of him being X-rayed in I think in the Liu Kang reveal video, where they have a montage of a bunch of characters and they have a lot of developers being interviewed. You see Stryker for a moment in an X-ray, and he has the cap on backwards. I thought it looked really good. I had no problem with it, but I don't know. They changed it. I thought it looked good before. It looks good right now, but I would have liked a classic Stryker. I would have preferred more of an MK3 throwback, but I think it looks good in all his renditions. Even Armageddon, I liked the whole, I don't know, I guess I'll call it a Michael Douglas SWAT team cop. I thought that worked as well. I really have no problem with the character. If there's any problem I have with the character, it's that they tried to make him a zoner, and he didn't zone very well, which is a problem because his chains and normals weren't terrible, but it wasn't enough, especially when you have a game where the top 5 are basically all S+ tier. And that was sad. I think unlike a lot of low tier characters, he didn't have anything that was exploitable. Noob Saibot did have some decent gimmicks, you know. Even Nightwolf. Nightwolf, I think, is a terrible character, but Nightwolf did some things really effectively. You know, he controlled the mid range really well. You know, if the other character wanted to play footsies, well, that's just too fucking bad because I have a shoulder charge, and it has a 10-frame startup, and you can't react to that. A lot of people say, well, if MK had back to block, you know, it'd be great because I could react to everything. No, you fucking can't. Shut the fuck up. No, it's a 10-frame startup move. And Stryker had none of that. Stryker had no exploit. He had no gimmick. You know, he had to play an honest game when I feel like the other low-tier characters did not. Even Jade. Jade had that invincibility EX move where she could interrupt chains. I mean, that's kind of cool. But if you want to play Stryker, you have to play Stryker. And I think out of all the low-tier characters, he probably got played the least. And that made me kind of sad. But I do like the character. I hope we see him more. I don't know if I had to pick 20 characters for MKX, he probably wouldn't be in that lineup. But I've never had a problem with the character. I've always been a big fan. Favorite costume? I'm going to say MK3. I like the fact that he's kind of this average Joe in the apocalypse, you know? I think that makes more sense to me. That makes him more interesting, you know? If the world ends, you don't have time to do cardio. You are what you are, and you got to deal with that. And for his playstyle, he doesn't really need to be, you know, this, you know, slender, fit, you know, melee character. He has weapons. He has a gun. Roll with that, and they did. You know, he doesn't need to be doing this crazy cardio shit all the time. He's not jumping across stages. That's not the character. So I'm okay with that. Him being sort of the average Joe in the midst of all these otherworldly warriors and these gods, you know? As for fatality, I'm going to go with MK9. To tase the guy, shoot the guy in the face, it's so simple. It's one of my favorite fatalities, to be honest with you. That is how a fatality should be. And the character's all into that. Now, if we're going to talk about least favorites, I hated the win pose. I hated the fact that his win pose was a fatality. That drove me crazy. I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe you guys will disagree, but I just thought that, I don't know. To me, it was tongue-in-cheek, but in a bad way, if that makes any sense. I'm like, Stryker wouldn't arbitrarily throw grenades at body. I don't know. Anyway, Stryker, yeah, I'm a big fan.
Stryker's motto: I have a gun. I don't need to practice ninjutsu or lift weights.
Yeah, I don't need to be at 8% body fat. I got a fucking gun, you know? So, I like it.
And when I run out of bullets, I have grenades.
And I don't need a reason to throw them. Now, if you're down for the count, I don't care. Here's a grenade, you know?
Yeah, I never bought into the hate for Stryker and MK3 either. He's never one of my favorites, but he was never one that I thought stuck out as like, man, this guy's absolutely dumb. Like, before I came onto the forums, you know, back in the day, that was never a thought that crossed my mind that's like, man, I really hate Stryker. Stryker sucks. It's just not something I thought about. I thought he was fine. He was this, you know, overweight, you know, slightly out of shape cop that uses guns and his baton, etc., and grenades and his taser. And I don't know. I just didn't see it as a problem. It took place in the city, so why not? I thought he fit fine in MK3's, you know, expanding the roster and the mythologies and who was included, etc. So yeah, I never had a problem with Stryker. And in MK9, I thought they made him even better and cooler, and definitely turned him into just like okay to me, to somebody that I liked a little bit more. He's still not one of my favorites. I wouldn't, if I had 20 people to, you know, pick from to include in this game, I probably wouldn't choose him in that either, just because he's not somebody that's in my, you know, top list of favorites by any means, but I like him. He's okay. I don't put him in the bottom of the my favorite people of the roster or anything. I'd choose him over 6, 7, 8, 10 other people. But yeah, I like. No, I wouldn't.
Please,
I wouldn't put him over. I don't know.
Oh,
they're
God.
Probably on par with each other, honestly.
I'll take it. That's cool.
I wouldn't put him over
that's
that.
better.
I was thinking more like the Darius and Dairu that I haven't really been a big fan of personally. But anyways, as far as MK9 and MK3, I really liked his moveset. I thought his special moves were fun. I thought in MK9 it was incredibly fun to bust out the guns and do the enhanced version where you're just completely unloading on somebody. So rather than doing his X-ray, it's fun to burn 3 meters, completely completely not very useful by any means, but it was just fun to burn 3 meters and do just the enhanced gun 3 times in a row, and it just looks like you're just unloading 5 clips into your opponent. But yeah, I like that, and I like the tossing the grenades and the little jumping twirl with the baton on the opponent, and the trip that you could do, and all of that stuff I thought was really well done. I really liked his X-ray in MK9. I thought it was very, very well executed and very thematic and very good personality for Stryker. I agree that his win pose was a little bit odd, that he just tosses a grenade back like no problem. Yeah, that he won and didn't have to do a fatality or anything. It was just kind of odd and just, I don't know, it was definitely out of character that this cop just tosses this grenade completely careless, doesn't matter that he's just killing some character that he just defeated.
And it's messy. His opponent is all over him now. It's gross. Like, I don't like, ugh.
It's gruesome in that regard for sure. My favorite look for him probably has to be his MK Armageddon. No, I'm just kidding. But
I like it, but yeah.
His riot officer.
From the set of the Bryan Singer X-Men movies.
Yeah. No, I my favorite version of him or his outfit would be his MK9 primary. I really like that. It's kind of an upgrade or update of his classic MK3. So yeah, I like that. In terms of his fatalities, I really like that one that you mentioned, Temp, but I'm going to take it back to his classic one where he puts the I like where he puts the bomb vest on him and then just completely closes his ears and like kind of like ducks away and they just explode, and it's just like
make sure to get a safe distance of 5 feet away so he doesn't get injured.
Yeah. It's just completely silly and ridiculous, but I don't know. It's just it gets a laugh out of me just because it's so over the top that it's one of those that I don't mind just because they're clearly just making it silly, but it's not so silly that it just looks stupid. It's silly in a way that you're like, okay, this guy's literally just leaning away from this bomb and he's closing his ears of all things, like that's gonna matter. So I don't know, it gets a laugh out of me, so that would be my favorite fatality for Stryker. And yeah, that wraps up my thoughts on Stryker as a character.
I'm gonna say, I've never been part of the Stryker hatred bandwagon, but I can get why a lot of people didn't used to like him. I've also had a problem with people who say he's fat, though. The fatness is just unjustified. A little shape, maybe, but you know what did it? It was that white part of his outfit, just kind of like sticking up and just over the general gut area. You combine that with like the kind of backwards cap, and you look at MK3 Stryker and just think, this is someone's uncool dad trying to hang out with the kids. I can picture this guy like walking into like a skateboard park. Hey guys, what's hip today? That said,
it's Joey from Full House.
Pretty much. Oh god, I can't unsee it now. It really is. MK3 is ruined. No, but really, not his worst look. I think that Armageddon took the cake for that. For me, the goggles did nothing for me. There, I've made the jokes. You don't have to. I don't know what they were going for with that. Like you said, Bryan Singer X-Men kind of look. It did not look like anything any kind of cop would wear. I much preferred his alternate costume with the whole SWAT utilities and the balaclava. It looked really good. But yes, MK9 was definitely where it took him to another level. They gave him a good personality. I found I was entertained by him. Not just that everyman kind of stumbling his way through a weird, strange situation. A little bit more assertive, a little bit more in command of things. Good decision to turn his hat around. I'm afraid that, I think that they kind of had to turn his personality up to 11 a little bit, give him that grenade toss and just kind of make him seem a bit more extreme, I suppose, is what they wanted to do. And in that respect, they succeeded. I think that they did justice to Stryker overall in MK9. I too had a lot of fun just unloading people with guns and just wonderful. It is a shame that they felt the need, I suppose, to kind of make him kind of a badass cop caricature, but I don't have a problem with it. I think that if MK9 did favors for anyone, it probably was Stryker. It's hard to look at him as kind of a joke, which people used to put Stryker up there on that joke pedestal with mocap, if you can believe that.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
That's always been really unjust.
I think the only reason they drew that comparison is because they kind of look a little similar. The slightly dumpy body shape and the black and blue color scheme.
If he just didn't have that white patch over the gun area in MK3.
Yeah.
And maybe not the backwards cap. I don't know. But I've always seen him as a great character. In retrospect, they had planned to have a male character in MK1 who was going to be Stryker, and then things worked out the way that they did, that we had Sonya instead. And I think that Stryker came along at the right time. Fatalities, I'm going to actually give it up for the MK9 upgrade to his bomb fatality, where he just kind of lodges it up in their gut and turns around and strikes this badass folded arms pose, because cool guys don't look at explosions, and they just kind of sit there in shocked horror as they blow the hell up. Definitely. I can't see him coming back, though. I see MK9 as the game that made him a more widely respected and liked character, but I don't think he's going to be too many people's favorite. I can't see the demand for him being that high. And if you said he was a relatively low-tier character, I'm guessing he didn't get a lot of tournament play. So that's unfortunate. I am going to miss Stryker, but I don't think he's coming back, and there's always next time.
There was one. Actually, it was a former MKO user, Espio. Espio took Stryker to tournament quite a bit, I believe. Ooh. And Espio, he was good with all the low-tier characters. He was very good with Jade. Even in Injustice, he plays a lot of Hot Girl, I believe. So yeah, he's a lover of the low tier, and I've always respected him for that.
Excellent. Well, if not this time, then hopefully another time. I do like Stryker nowadays. And, I've also kind of turned a blind eye to the fact that his X-ray works on Kenshi.
Yeah.
Remember in Deadly Alliance, when Kenshi would do test your sight, he'd actually cup his hand to his ear?
That was such a good touch. You're kind of wishing that he'd just tase Kenshi in the face first, rather than
I wish there was something different, the attention to detail.
It's a shame, but it's not something that's gonna kill.
Yeah, it doesn't break the game for me. It's just the
light is very hot. There we go. In-universe explanation.
It's like it sort of bugs me that Raiden stands up when he's knocked down now, whereas he used to teleport every single time in MK1 and 2. But whatever,
I guess that's all I really have to say about Stryker.
I guess to cover my feelings on Stryker, I wouldn't say I hated him like people did back in the 90s. You guys know I don't really hate or any character or think that they should be deleted from canon or whatever. I even see the potential for improvement in Su Hao or Dairu and Darius, but Stryker was definitely never a character that I was interested in until MK9 really. I guess that now's as good a time as any to get into the one fan question we had about Stryker, because it's sort of the answer to that covers my own feelings. And it was Smokeman14 asked, what exactly do you think made Stryker cool in MK9? Considering the backlash against the character, and the only thing that changed visually was that he wore his cap the right way, what else could it have been? What did they do to what's the difference really that makes him cool now as opposed to an MK3 when everybody hated him? And I think, we kind of covered it in how many times we've called him fat or chubby just describing his MK3 blue screen actor, and no offense to that guy. I don't know.
That guy's probably frowning right now. He's just so upset. Eating ice cream or something.
Yeah. Poor guy. I bet he's not even out of shape. It's just that stupid shirt was too baggy and made him look, I don't know. You compared him to Dave Coulier on Full House. I always, the go-to reference I make is Chief O'Brien from Star Trek. Because
very true.
Yeah, it's just sort of he just looks sort of like a chubby, average Joe Irishman with curly hair. And the t-shirt with the white patch over the stomach didn't help. it doesn't really look like a real shirt anyone would wear. It's definitely not a cop uniform. It's some sort of like space guy t-shirt. It just looks weird. And the thing that occurs to me is I never bought that the guy was a chosen one. You know, like I get that he's supposed to be the most average and normal of the heroes, but he just doesn't look like someone who has the skills to be one of the Earth's greatest fighters, that when the world is dying and Raiden is desperate and needs to pick out like the 10 best guys on Earth to save it, why would he go for this guy who, you know, doesn't even lift, bro?
Fun fact, actor's name is Michael O'Brien, so there you go.
Yeah. His last name is, in fact, O'Brien. But, I feel bad picking on him, because he's a real person, like, it's an actual human being.
Yeah, it's not a design, he's not polygons, that's a dude.
Yeah. John Tobias drew Stryker in the strategy guides, the art, he looks muscular.
It was just a really bad shirt.
Yeah, I think it was mostly the shirt. And maybe it was kind of his facial features too. He looked kind of dopey, like you could almost see just by looking at the guy who played Stryker, you sort of got the impression that his storyline gives you of this guy doesn't know why he's here, or like, holy shit, I'm surrounded by monsters, I'm just a dude with a gun. And that's sort of appropriate, but at the same time, I feel like he comes across as a little dumb, and the thing for me is, if you're going to have a cop in a fighting game, that's a hard archetype to pull off. You need to really... He needs to be like the cops are in an action movie. And a lot of fighting games, their cops are based on Jackie Chan in a police story. Mortal Kombat 3 was obviously set in New York, so they went with an American cop. You really have to have the guy be Bruce Willis in Die Hard or Keanu Reeves in Speed. You know, he needs to seem like a super cop, like a big hero kind of guy. You know, the kind of guy who falls into that heroes never look at explosions cliche.
Sort
and
of
I think
Mel
MK9...
Gibson Lethal Weapon.
yeah. I think MK9 nailed that where MK3 didn't. Like, he looked like a regular guy in MK3, and in MK9 he looks like a guy Raiden would pick as one of the last people left to save the world. You know, he's got, you know, muscles, and even his bio makes references to Die Hard and Speed. And, you know, he's sort of, there's... The dialogue helps. Like, he's got sort of an attitude now where he's got that very slight New York accent, and he's like a little bit snarky and smart-mouthed. And I think all of that really, you know, gave character to Stryker, and it sort of put him almost in the same category as Johnny Cage, in that, you know, the characters who have like a cool or funny attitude, that, you know, there's something charismatic about them. And it helps that the t-shirt finally looks like just a normal ass blue t-shirt, and they even put like a badge on a chain around his neck. So it really looks like this is a guy who, you know, he's not in uniform. Like, he rushed out of the house in, you know, this shirt and pants, and he threw the badge around his neck and the SWAT hat on. Now he goes to work. And the other thing, I don't know how many people notice this, in story mode, he never wears that costume. He's always in the SWAT armor alternate.
That's right.
You know, as far as the story goes, Stryker's only fighting the war for an afternoon before he dies, so it does make sense that he doesn't have a change of clothes, but I just thought that was interesting. But yeah, so I guess as far as favorite costume goes, I'm gonna say the MK9 version, because it's sort of... Like, I still think he might have worked with the hat backwards. I don't think that's really all that important. And, you know, it's not like wearing your hat backwards is some throwback from a bygone era. People still do that.
Yeah.
But just in terms of like making him look more serious and professional and like a real fighter, I think they nailed it well in MK9. And I'm actually gonna sort of cheat with favorite fatality and say mine is his MK9 win pose.
I thought you were gonna say something else, but the win pose, okay.
Oh yeah, because I mean he's obviously killing him, and I love the way he doesn't look at the explosion.
I don't know, dude. It's gross, dude. He's got Melina all over his shirt now, dude. That's fucking.
Yeah, but he just doesn't give a shit because he's a badass Stryker nowadays.
Yeah, right, he doesn't fucking care.
Well, his dry cleaners are gonna give a shit. That's fucked up.
Stryker doesn't dry clean. He just does crunches.
He
just wears the same shirt 8 days in a row. He stops wearing the shirt when it gets burned off.
He bleach cleans it while he's wearing it.
There's another shirt under the shirt. You can't stop him.
Actually, another small little tidbit for Stryker, something that they did that actually helped him out during story mode, was every now and then, he'd be the guy like outlining a plan of attack. Let's send this guy to get some recon. Da-da-da-da-da. You know?
Yeah, that's true.
They made him more analytical. He felt more like a cop with strategy on his mind.
I feel like
it's not just the badassness that they upped. They made him more believable.
I feel like the biggest disappointment about the fact that they killed him off at the end, and that he's unlikely to return as anything more than like an NPC zombie in MKX, if at all. I feel like there was an opportunity, now that you fixed him, if you're gonna say kill off Jax, Stryker could have joined the Special Forces or something like that,
Yep.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think he's up there in that bag in that bag I put smoke in with like gigantic improvements to what once was a kind of a skeletal base that now will unfortunately maybe go nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I just feel like if you're gonna put all that work in to make the audience love a guy they used to hate, why would you not want that guy to then stick around as an asset you could use in the future? It sort of feels like a waste of effort. I don't know. I mean, I still enjoy him in MK9. I think even if he doesn't show up in future games, at least we got something as cool as we did. Because, I mean, I know he's low tier, but I actually really like his gameplay. I mean, I guess some of the things I like most about it we're going to get to see in Cassie Cage with the guns and everything. And, I mean, if nothing else... Yeah, there's that. And... I don't know.
I was just going to say, with every low tier character, every one of them was almost there. They were almost amazing, but there was always one thing holding them back. And with Stryker, it was he couldn't pressure that well. He didn't really have any high damaging mix-ups. He only needed a couple of things to make him really good. And most of the low tier characters were like that. They only needed that one thing.
No, I don't know because I don't know anything about this.
I sort of feel like the thing that annoys me the most when I'm playing as Stryker is that I don't necessarily feel this with other characters. I feel like all of his good moves are his EX moves, so you have to, his meter is more important to him than it is to other characters. Because, the repeated gunshot and the double grenades. I mean, I never even see his X-ray. I like his X-ray, and it bums me out how little I use it because I have to save up for the gun.
All right. Well, any other thoughts on Stryker?
I like his arcade ending with the bit about how he refused to have a movie made about him because
he's just doing his job.
By Johnny Cage. There's that little animation of Johnny slowly hanging his head.
Yeah,
which is a shame because I would willingly watch a Die Hard styled Stryker movie in a heartbeat.
I just like his quote. I was just doing my job.
Yeah.
Don't thank me. I was just doing my job. But alright, that wraps it up for Stryker, and that'll wrap it up for this episode. once again, subscribe to us on YouTube. We're also on iTunes. And yeah, hope you guys have a good Thanksgiving if you're in America. Hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving if you were in Canada. And to the rest of the world, yeah, go fuck yourselves. Well, you guys have a good week, and we'll see you in episode 7. Bye.
Wow.
Apologizing on behalf of the Americans, even though I'm Canadian. That's how Canadian I am. I apologize.
Maple
for
syrup.
them. Yep.
All right, well, see you guys later.
Later.
Take it
Later,
easy.
everybody.
Is that your